In early 1991, the Iraqi military was an absolute behemoth. Following an 8-year conflict with Iran, they fielded the fourth largest army on the planet, over 1 million battle-hardened troops backed by thousands of Soviet-built tanks. And they were dug in. Along the Kuwaiti border, Iraqi forces had constructed massive, layered defensive lines, miles of deep trenches, tank traps, and sprawling minefields, creating a near-impenetrable wall of sand and steel. Facing this wall was a U.S.-led coalition dealing with its own historical baggage. The American military had not fought a massive, conventional ground war of this scale since Vietnam, leaving deep uncertainty about how their forces would perform. Military theorists looked at that fortified border and saw a meat grinder. Pre-war estimates painted a grim picture, projecting a grueling war with tens of thousands of coalition casualties. Following weeks of punishing preliminary airstrikes, the order for the ground invasion was finally given. The clock started on a campaign no one knew would end in exactly 100 hours. Commanders knew that driving hundreds of thousands of troops straight into those prepared trenches would mean fighting exactly the war Iraq wanted. A direct frontal assault could break the coalition entirely. For the first 24 hours, the coalition strategy, orchestrated by General Norman Schwarzkopf, relied on misdirection. They needed to pull Iraqi attention away from the actual point of attack. This map shows how that deception worked. Coalition forces staged a highly visible fake amphibious assault along the eastern coast, combined with loud forward attacks on the southern border. They wanted Iraq to believe the invasion was coming right at their teeth. While the Iraqi army braced for a massive frontal impact from the sea and the south, coalition engineers were quietly working miles away, cutting clear paths straight through the actual minefields. Under the cover of darkness and early skirmishes, specialized armored vehicles were violently ripping through sand berms and explosive barriers at incredible speeds. The success of those critical opening hours relied entirely on blinding the Iraqi high command to the real threat building to their west. Out on the far western flank lay hundreds of miles of deep, unmapped desert. For decades, military doctrine had written this region off, assuming it was simply impossible for a massive mechanized army to navigate without roads or landmarks. This blank slate became the canvas for the famous left hook. The coalition swung a massive force deep into the open desert, bypassing the border. This worked because of GPS, allowing units to pinpoint their coordinates by connecting to satellites. Combining precise GPS coordinates with advanced thermal night vision, entire armored columns could drive continuously at high speeds, completely blind to the naked eye, straight through the blackness of the desert. The physical scale of this movement is staggering to think about. Hundreds of thousands of troops and massive logistics trains swept through empty terrain in perfect synchronization. Superior navigation allowed the coalition to use the trackless desert as a high-speed highway, bypassing obstacles that would have stopped any previous army. As the clock pushed past hour 72, the trap snapped shut. The full weight of the coalition forces violently crashed into the completely unprepared western flank of the elite Iraqi Republican Guard. At the tip of the spear was the M1 Abrams tank. Its advanced fire control systems allowed American gunners to accurately target and destroy enemy armor at ranges where the Iraqi tanks couldn't even see them, let alone shoot back. Above the tanks, Apache helicopters created an inescapable environment. They hovered in the distance, providing overwhelming vertical strikes that dismantled enemy armor from the sky. Realizing they were entirely outflanked, outranged, and outgunned, the Iraqi command structure began a rapid, chaotic collapse. The defensive wall had become a cage. This phase proved exactly how overwhelming technological asymmetry, seeing farther, moving faster, and striking harder, can utterly negate a heavily entrenched enemy, regardless of their manpower. At exactly 100 hours into the ground invasion, a ceasefire was declared. The kinetic fighting stopped cold, and the sprawling desert battlefield went quiet. This chart highlights the stark reality of the outcome. The massive bar represents the tens of thousands of casualties military planners originally feared, while the tiny block shows the actual, remarkably low number of coalition losses. On the other side, the damage was absolute. Over those 4 days, the Iraqi forces were practically erased as an organized military entity, their heavy equipment left burning across the sand. The defeat demonstrated that static borders and massive troop concentrations were no longer a guaranteed defense against a mobile force that could see and strike from distance. The 100-Hour Campaign created a blueprint for modern operations, where satellite navigation, advanced night vision, and long-range targeting replaced mass attrition as the primary tools of land warfare.